Welcome back, let's dive right in. In the first part of this documentary we talked about how the Aztecs founded their great empire and how it thrived. Today, we would be talking about how the Aztecs lost their empire despite giving it their all to defend it. Let's dive right in. In the spring of 1519, strange wooden beasts appeared along the shores of the Yucatan Peninsula. They carried men clad in metal, wielding weapons never before seen. These were the soldiers of Spain, led by a man whose name would be etched into history, Hernán Cortés. Hernán Cortés was no ordinary explorer. He was a man of ambition, cunning, and ruthless determination. Defying the orders of his superiors, he burned his ships upon arrival, ensuring that his men had no choice but to march forward. His goal: to find the fabled riches of the Aztec Empire and claim them for Spain. The Spaniards were vastly outnumbered, but they possessed something the Aztecs did not: steel, gunpowder, and horses, creatures that seemed like monsters to the native people, but above all, they had strategy. Cortés knew he could not take on the Aztecs alone, so he sought allies among their enemies, the Tlaxcalans. The Tlaxcalans, fierce warriors who had long resisted Aztec domination, saw an opportunity in Cortés. Though they fought him at first, they soon recognized that an alliance with the Spaniards might be their chance to overthrow their oppressors. With thousands of Tlaxcalan warriors at his side, Cortés now had an army large enough to challenge the might of the Aztecs. But to reach Tenochtitlán, he needed more than just weapons. He needed knowledge. And he would find it in the most unexpected place. La Malinche, an enslaved woman given to Cortés, would become one of his most valuable assets. Fluent in multiple languages, she acted as interpreter, advisor, and diplomat. With her help, Cortés unraveled a complex political landscape of the Aztec world, learning of their weaknesses, their rivalries, and the divine prophecies that might work in his favor. Word of the strange newcomers had reached the heart of the Aztec Empire. Emperor Moctezuma II, a man both wise and deeply superstitious, was torn. Could these be mere invaders? Or were they gods? Perhaps even the long-awaited return of Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent deity. Moctezuma chose caution. Rather than confronting the Spaniards with force, he sent gifts of gold and fine textiles, hoping to pacify them. But these gifts had the opposite effect. To Cortés, they were proof of the empire's vast wealth, and an invitation to take more. As the Spaniards marched toward Tenochtitlan, they stopped in Cholula, a city loyal to the Aztecs. What happened next sent shockwaves across the empire. Whether out of paranoia or a strategic move, Cortés ordered the slaughter of thousands of unarmed Cholulans, burning their temples and striking terror into the hearts of the Aztecs. The massacre at Cholula made one thing clear: the strangers were not gods. They were conquerors. Yet, Moctezuma still hesitated, torn between fear and diplomacy. And so, when the Spaniards finally reached the gates of Tenochtitlan, he made a fateful decision. On November 8, 1519, Hernán Cortés and his forces entered the legendary city of Tenochtitlan. They were awestruck. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. Larger, grander, and more sophisticated than any European city of its time. Moctezuma, still believing diplomacy was the best course, welcomed Cortés as an honored guest, offering him lavish quarters within the imperial palace. But he had invited a serpent into his home. Cortés, ever the strategist, quickly seized the opportunity. Within days, the unthinkable happened. Moctezuma, ruler of the mighty Aztec Empire, was taken hostage in his own city. The balance of power had shifted. The Spaniards now held the empire's most powerful man as their prisoner, and the fate of the Aztecs was forever changed. Tenochtitlan, the great island capital of the Aztec Empire, stood on the brink of disaster. Its ruler, Moctezuma, was no longer sovereign king but a prisoner in his own palace. The Spanish, led by Hernán Cortés, had taken control without a single battle. At least, not yet, but the uneasy peace was about to shatter. The war for the heart of the Aztec Empire was only beginning. For months, the Aztecs watched as their guests turned into conquerors. The Spaniards looted their temples, desecrated sacred idols, and demanded ever more tribute. Each day, resentment boiled beneath the surface until one brutal event ignited the flames of war. During a sacred festival to honor the gods, Spanish forces, under Pedro de Alvarado, committed an unthinkable act. Fearing a rebellion, they massacred unarmed Aztec nobles and priests inside the great temple. Blood ran down the temple steps, The air was filled with screams of horror. The massacre at the Templo Mayor shattered the fragile peace. The people of Tenochtitlán had endured enough. The streets erupted in open revolt. The Spanish were now the hunted. Desperate to regain control, courts ordered Moctezuma to address his people, hoping the emperor's words would calm them. But the people no longer saw Moctezuma as their ruler, they saw a traitor. Moctezuma, the once mighty ruler of the Aztecs, fell that day. Some say he died from his wounds, others claim the Spanish killed him when they realized he was no longer useful. Either way, his reign was over, and with it, so was any chance of peace. With Tenochtitlán in full rebellion, courts knew they had to escape. On the night of June 30th, 1520, under heavy rain, the Spaniards attempted to flee the city, but the Aztecs were waiting. As the Spaniards crossed the causeways, the Aztecs struck with full force. Hundreds of Spanish soldiers and their allies were cut down, their bodies swallowed by the dark waters of Lake Texcoco. The survivors would remember this night forever as La Noche Triste, the night of sorrows. Though battered and humiliated, courts refused to accept defeat. He regrouped, forged new alliances, and returned a year later with a deadly weapon the Aztecs could not fight: smallpox. Smallpox, brought by the Spanish, swept through the empire like wildfire, killing thousands, including the new emperor, Cuitlathuac. Tenochtitlán, once a city of 200,000, was now a city of the dead. On May 26, 1521, courts laid siege to Tenochtitlán. For 80 days, the city endured starvation, disease, and relentless bombardment. Its magnificent canals ran red with blood, the great temples burned. And yet, the Aztecs fought to the very end. On August 13, 1521, Cuauhtémoc was captured. The great city of Tenochtitlán, the heart of the Aztec Empire, had fallen. What was once the most powerful civilization in Mesoamerica was reduced to rubble, its people enslaved, its temples destroyed, its gods silenced. With the fall of Tenochtitlán, the surviving Aztecs faced a grim fate. Their once mighty warriors became enslaved laborers. Their noble families were stripped of power, forced to serve their new Spanish overlords. Their temples were destroyed, their gods outlawed, their way of life erased. At least, that was the Spanish plan. In the heart of the fallen city, the Spaniards erected a new capital, Mexico City, literally on the bones of the Aztec world. A Catholic cathedral replaced the Grand Templo Mayor. The Spanish crown claimed the land, its riches, and its people. Cuauhtémoc, the last true ruler of the Aztecs, was captured and tortured. The Spaniards, obsessed with finding more gold, burned his feet, demanding to know where the empire's hidden treasures lay. He refused to break. Years later, they executed him, fearing he would one day lead a rebellion. But even in death, Cuauhtémoc remained a symbol of resistance, a reminder that the Aztec spirit would not be so easily extinguished. After the conquest, the Spanish established a new order, the colonial system known as New Spain. The Aztec lands became Spanish territories, ruled by viceroys appointed by the king. The indigenous people were forced into the encomienda system, working for Spanish landowners in harsh conditions. To cement their rule, the Spanish brought their religion. Catholicism spread across the land, converting the native population, but often blending with Aztec traditions. The gods of old never fully disappeared, they transformed, hidden beneath Christian saints and rituals. Though the empire had fallen, the Aztec culture did not die. It adapted, it survived. Over time, a new identity emerged, a fusion of Spanish and indigenous traditions that shaped the culture of modern Mexico. The Day of the Dead, one of Mexico's most famous traditions, has deep roots in Aztec beliefs about the afterlife. The Spanish sought to erase Aztec customs, but in the end, the two cultures merge, creating something new, something enduring. Nahuatl, the language of the Aztecs, is still spoken by millions today. Many of the foods that defined the empire, maize, chili, chocolate, remain at the heart of Mexican cuisine. The Aztecs may have lost their empire, but their influence remains in every corner of modern Mexico. For centuries, the story of the Aztecs was told by their conquerors. They were painted as bloodthirsty savages, their achievements overshadowed by tales of human sacrifice. But in recent years, history has begun to uncover the truth. The Aztecs were not just warriors, they were builders, poets, mathematicians, and astronomers. Their empire was one of the most advanced civilizations in the Americas. And today, historians and archaeologists are finally giving them the recognition they deserve. Beneath the modern streets of Mexico City, the ruins of Tenochtitlán still lie. The past is not forgotten. It is simply waiting to be rediscovered. The Aztecs may have fallen, but their story did not end in 1521. Their spirit lives on in the people, traditions, and culture of Mexico. Their legacy is one of resilience, adaptation, and strength. And though their empire may be gone, their influence remains, a silent heartbeat beneath the modern world. Thanks for tuning into the past. Don't forget to subscribe and join us next time for more stories that shaped our world.